Today we're going to be using the book Turning 15 on the Road to Freedom, My Story of the 1965 Selma Voting Rights March by Linda Blackmon Lowery, to be talking about our newest writing unit of memoir. First, a little background about the book. Before 1965, many African Americans were denied the right to vote, especially in the southern United States. The 13th and 14th Amendments were added to the U.S. Constitution in 1865 and guaranteed former slaves the right to vote, along with the right to marry, own property, to travel, and other important rights that white citizens already enjoyed. However, 100 later, blacks were still being denied the right to vote in some parts of the U.S. How did this happen? In places like Selma, Alabama, state laws and procedures made registering to vote easy for white people, but close to impossible for African Americans. African Americans had to fill out a 4-page application, but not whites, take a difficult literacy test for blacks only, and have someone who was already registered to vote vouch for you. Then a group of registrars, who were all white, decided if you were fit to vote. In the Authors County in 1964, there were 14,400 white people eligible to vote and 15,115 black people eligible to vote, more blacks than whites. However, of the 9,530 people who were actually registered to vote, 9,195 were white. The author was 13 years old when she joined Dr. Martin Luther King and the others to march for the right for black citizens to vote in Alabama. This story is called a memoir text. In a memoir text, the author provides factual information. It is usually a narrative. It is about a significant time, place, person, or event in the author's life. The author explains why this event is important, and it is written in first person, which means the author uses I. Please pause to write down these notes in a blank page in your writing notebook, put today's date, title the page Memoir Text, and write down these 5 notes. Press play when you're ready. Now let's go ahead and read the story, the first chapter. By the time I was 15 years old, I had been in jail 9 times. I was born in Selma, Alabama in 1950. In those days, you were born black or you were born white in Selma, and there was a big difference. Where I lived, everyone was black. I lived in the George Washington Carver homes. My buddies and I all felt safe there because everyone watched out for one another. If one family couldn't pay the rent, the others got together and had card parties and fish fries to raise the money. Nobody talked about it afterwards either, because next month it might be you who needed help. We went to black churches and we went to black schools where we had caring black teachers. I looked forward to going to school. The Ku Klux Klan stayed away from us. They were a group of crazy white folks who hated us black people and were determined to keep us out of places, to keep us segregated. They drove through our black neighborhoods, hiding their faces with sheets on their heads, yelling racial slurs, blowing their horns, and cursing and shooting their guns. They rode through areas where they knew they could scare people, but they would not ride through the George Washington Carver homes. I felt safe and secure. We were poor then, but I never knew it. I can't remember a day in my life when I went hungry, even after my mother died when I was 7 years old. My daddy made sure of that. I loved the ground my daddy walked on. I did. When different family members wanted to take us to live with them after Mama died, Daddy said he wasn't separating the kids. He wasn't giving us to anybody. At my mother's funeral, we heard Daddy say that we were his children and he would take care of us. I was the oldest of 4, Jackie was the next, then Joanne, and then baby Al. When my mother died, I heard the other people say if she wasn't colored, she could have been saved. But the hospital was for whites only. My mother died as a result of her skin color. I just believe that. So segregation hurt my family. It did. It hurt me. After my mother's funeral, my grandmother moved in. She was one determined woman, and she was going to raise us up to be strong and determined too. I remember her saying as she brushed my hair, "There is nothing more precious than walking on this earth. There's nothing more precious walking on this earth than you are. You are a child of God, so hold up your head and believe in yourself." That's chapter 1 of our story, Turning 15 on the Road to Freedom. What we'd like you to do now is please go to recap, and there will be a video there for you to post and respond to.